So when I said about this financial series, if somebody wants it, they can take it. Please don't keep it forever. Bring it back so other people can glean from it. Same with these books. These, I think this is from Bill Gates, which I can't recommend his financial advice. 2 audio cassettes. Does anybody have a cassette player? Come on. You can admit it. Brad, that's yours now. And here's a Susie Orman on cassette. Just if you're feeling a little nostalgic, just jump in and take that. So, yeah, exercise your power. So we'll start off with a scripture that we did last week that said that God has given you the power to make wealth, right? Okay. So, where is that power located? Everybody go like that, right there. He's given everybody the power to make wealth. The thing that separates you from people who navigate any industry, a CEO, a police officer, is that they have knowledge in their field that they exercise, right? That's the only thing. It's the only difference. So whatever you exercise, whatever you do, whatever you spend your time investing yourself in, you will become good at that with practice, right? Practice doesn't make perfect, it makes permanent. You can practice something poorly and make it permanent in your life that you shouldn't probably make permanent in your life. So you want to practice things that are going to benefit you over the long haul. Finances is one of those. I think if we all agree that we need it, we just don't want to talk about it, especially in church. Is it okay to talk about finances? Other than giving it to the church? The answer to that is yes, because God wants you to prosper. If He gave you the power to make wealth, He gave you that for a reason, to exercise, right? So I don't, not necessarily trust, I just don't think any human being on this earth can say things like, I can pick stocks better than you, or I can pick an investment better than you. They're educated in that field, and they may be able to navigate that field on a little bit better. But statistics show that 47% of the success of stock brokers and money managers is all they get out of their stock picking. It's 47%. It's like flipping a coin, right? I'm going to get 50-50. If I flip it 1,000 times, now I can flip it 10 times, and I might get 8 times heads. So you have to do it over the long term. It's the long term that wins in finances. Okay, so this guy, I super trust. You can take a picture of that slide. If you just Google his name, Daniel Solon, you'll get all these books. These are just a sneak peek of the books that he's done. He is a financial attorney. He is not an advisor or a broker. He's a financial attorney, and he has seen so many things based on the corporate level and personal level of people that he's handled, clients that he's handled over the years, of the mismanagement of money and some of the things that companies have done to people, that he is a really big crusader on finances. He is a very successful investor, and he wrote his books, and they're all called The Smartest Whatever Book. And he said it's not the smartest book that's ever written, it's the smartest book you'll ever read, because you're not going to read the other books from Wall Street. You can read these books. They're about 2 chapters long, 3 chapters long. Each section breaks it down Barney style, so you can understand it, because you can read Money Magazine and start talking about ratios, P&E, and looking at all kind of charts, and you'll get bogged down in minutia, shut the book, and you'll call a financial advisor. There is nothing wrong with financial advisors. Everyone needs to make a living, right? And that the securities industry is based on your lack of knowledge and your time and ability to learn some of these things that you probably need to learn, need to know if you spend a little time on it. And there's lots of YouTube videos on this that break it down real easy. Okay? But so you're going to say, well, David, I don't have extra money to invest in this right now. So let me talk to you about side hustles. Does that ring a bell to anybody? You know what that means? A side job that you can glean money from that doesn't take you a long time. You can do it on a part-time basis. Has anybody ever worked a part-time job as just getting off started in life? Sure, you do that so you can make ends meet, right? So I have tinnitus. You know what that is? Ringing in your ears, right? So with tinnitus, I did a little self-study on it. I'm not going to go to the doctor for it. I'm not big on going to doctors. I love them, but so I read what tinnitus is and how to overcome it. So tinnitus is a frequency in your ear that, because of damage, loud noises, things like that, you ring. Everybody rings at a different level, by the way. Not everybody. If you have it, you may not ever get it. Hope you don't. But what I found out is that rainfall is the same frequency that my tinnitus rings at. Certain types of rainfall, I'm very particular. So I found a video on YouTube, 10 hours, and it's a dark screen. And it's the exact frequency of my tinnitus. So guess what I sleep with every night? The TV on, it's a black screen, and it's that frequency, 533 hertz, if you're taking notes. And it rings, the sound of that negates the sound of the sound in my ear. The guy who made that video receives $500 a day from YouTube because of the views that he has on that stupid video. That's a good side hustle. So watch, go to YouTube and type in side hustle and see what you get. Look at the ideas. There's all sorts of ideas and people, and there are companies and people that will pay you for doing that. I watched a video from a kid the other day, 28 years old. He receives $128,000 a month in the mail. So these people are exercising the power to make wealth, right? But success is disguised by hard work. So you do have to work. You do have to give it some time and work at doing this. It's just not going to come unless you have a very wealthy elderly person in your life that you know that you're in their will. And if you got time to wait on that, okay. I don't. I didn't. My family didn't have two nickels to rub together. I knew I was going to have to do something. So I started educating myself on how our financial system works and what to do and what not to do, because I didn't want to give my money away, right? I don't think you do either. You're smarter than that. So in Deuteronomy 8:18, it says, you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you the power to make wealth. By the way, you got to remember him, because when you get big, don't get too big for your britches. Remember where it come from. He gave you the power to do this, that he may establish his covenant, which he swore to your fathers, as it is in this day. So, and I wrote, this is not the Bible if you were curious, you will never prosper until you believe that it's God's will for you to prosper. Because people, however a man thinks in his heart, that's how he's going to be. That's how you're going to go, right? If you say, well, I never get ahead, okay, then you're declaring over your life, you're prophesying over your life what you'll have, of what you'll receive and what you won't receive even, right? But if you walk around the house saying, God wants me to prosper, and he's given me the power to prosper, and then do something about it. It's the thing that you do that's going to get you where you want to go. For example, everybody in here works, probably. I don't anymore, and you're welcome for that, and I'm very welcome for that. But at one time, I knew that I wasn't going to get paid for not going into work. Now, some people do. My youngest son works from home. He really angers me sometimes, sitting home in his pajamas on the computer. Anyway, but you're going to get paid commiserate with what you do and what you know. You become more valuable. I think you're valuable today if you just show up. You know, people today are signing on to a warehouse, starting off at $20, $25 an hour. Pretty good. That's not bad start off. I started off at $2.80, Joel, $1.70, yeah, somewhere in there. And showed up, made myself valuable to the company and grew. I know somebody who started doing the lowest job at an organization, lowest job, no education in this job, and just said that whenever somebody would come to him and say, will you do this? I'll do that. Well, do you have any experience in this? No, but I'll learn it. and left the company, the highest paid position in that company. Yeah, because you said, I will. I'll just do it. So it's what you do over time that benefits, not just a flash. I'm going to try tithing. I did it 2 times. Didn't work. I'm going to go to work 2 days and see if they'll pay me the rest of my life. You pay into retirement, right? They're called 401ks now. Very few companies give retirements anymore. It became very expensive for companies, and it actually took some companies down when people started retiring and taking the money that they said that they would always have available and lost their retirements because the company files for bankruptcy. So 401ks became the standard. And a 401k then, everybody have one? There's some, probably do, some maybe don't, I don't know. But 401ks is a fund family. Let's just say Charles Schwab provides this fund to target industries. These family of funds. It might be 20, could be 40, and you just go down and pick, but it's up to you. Pick. You know, your first day on the job, fill out all this stuff. Here's your medical, and tell me what you want to put your 401k in. You're like, I have no idea, you know. So this is where financial managers, fee-only financial managers, I recommend them, fee only. You're going to pay somebody $40 to sit with them for a half hour to look at your portfolio or to guide you into a 401. Here's my family of 401 mutual funds. What do you recommend? That's where they are immeasurably smarter than we, not smarter. They have more time in the market. They have more time in the industry toward knowledge. Where I'm 22 years old, I have no idea what to pick in. What's a mutual fund? Yeah. Do you know what a mutual fund is? So we could start a mutual fund. And everybody in here gives the amount that they can give. And then we pick a family of stocks that we like. Let's say Coca-Cola, IBM, good dividend-paying stocks that's been around for a long, long time. We all pool our money because a Tesla stock right now is $214, I think, at last look, right? I can't afford too many of them, but we all together can. And now we own money in, or we own stock in Tesla, right? Okay. So then as Tesla prospers, so do we. The same percentage that Tesla's prospering. That's what a mutual fund is. We pool our money in to buy things that we can't buy or have the knowledge even to be able to investigate or educate ourselves on how they work. So mutual funds in a 401k, that you'll have a family of those funds, but they all invest in different things. I'm having a little trouble. Sorry. So they might invest in, I don't know, 20 different stocks. There's one called the S&P 500 fund that invests in the same companies that the S&P 500. The S&P 500 is a collection of 500 mainline stocks that gives us the baseline of how we're doing in our economy. And they are kind of the standard of how we did in Wall Street that year. Like the S&P 500 is up 6.2%. And that's generally how all the mutual funds and stocks will follow, generally. I can see that you guys are really tracking here. We should talk about this in church, I hope. So Ecclesiastes 11 says this. You ever hear of diversification? Wall Street didn't start that term. Solomon did. And here we go. Ecclesiastes 11, ship your grain across the sea. After many days you may receive a return. Invest in 7 ventures, yes, in 8. You do not know what disaster may come upon the land. That's called diversification. If clouds are full of water, they pour rain on the earth. Whether a tree falls to the south or the north, in the place where it falls, there it's going to be. In other words, stuff happens. Stuff's just going to happen. Calamities are going to happen. Whoever watches the wind will not plant. Whoever looks at the clouds will not reap. I don't know. I got to time this just right. It may not be a good time. The economy doesn't look good. Interest rates are up. It never looks good. It's just going to be what it is. Oh my goodness. This thing has just gone crazy on me. Sow your seed in the morning. Whoops, hang on. Sow your seed in the morning. And at evening, let your hands not be idle. In other words, it's going to require, I'm going to get the hand mic here in a minute. It's going to require, hands not be idle. It's going to require you doing something. You're going to have to pay attention to do something on purpose. For you do not know which will succeed, whether this or that, or whether both will do equally well. So if you have 7 streams of income, 7 ventures, if one of them fails, you're not in a disaster, right? Because the other ones pick that up. It's called diversification. Okay. Alan Greenspan says this, though. He was the chairman of the Federal Reserve that sets our interest rates and sets, they are the overseers. It's a collection of 7 men who are voted in, and women, that set the United States standard of their economy. And by the way, the rest of the world looks at our economy to gauge on how they're doing. We are the standard of the financial system of the world, be it good or bad. But Alan Greenspan said this: I believe there is an irrational exuberance in the market. He said this on national television in 1992. Guess what happened to the market the next day? Tanked. Because we put so much sway on what somebody says, and the market can be manipulated that way as well. So when that tree falls, the trees are going to fall. Don't look at the trees. Just get into it long term and leave it alone. Leave it alone. Leave it alone, man. It's the hardest thing to do. So nobody talked to me about investing when I was a child. I told you that my parents we were not well off. I didn't know that we weren't well off. You ever were you raised that way? We were probably lower middle class, maybe. We did okay. I never went without clothing or food, but we didn't have a lot of extra stuff. Never taught about the markets or even saving. Finance, I knew nothing when I went in the military. I worked with somebody in the military once that their attitude was, well, I still have checks. How can I be out of money? I was close. I was close to that. I'm like, how does this all work? I mean, I didn't know. And then we had a thing called Sure Pay, automatic payroll deposit. That went in. Hated that. I'm like, I want a check, and I want to cash it, and I want to play with it for a little while before I have to spend it anyway. So it all became electronic. So even finances today is kind of like 401k, stuff like that, investments. It's kind of not real to me. It's kind of not, I just don't deal in cash anymore. You might. Some people still deal largely in cash. I don't. So it's not a game, but it is just weird how all this works and how it can be manipulated up and down. Now media, the talking heads on the media, plenty of financial people that's going to tell you one thing and another one's going to tell you the other thing, depending on who you're listening to the day and their flavor. If I mention the name Jim Cramer, anybody know him? Very flamboyant. Has a show on Fox or something like that. He'll take a baseball bat, hit a coffee cup. He's blowing horns. He's got all these sound effects for these different things that he's talking about. He made his money in hedge funds. Brad, come here a minute. Just clip that on the back of my shirt. Clip me up. It came from Together. See what I'm talking about? So Jim Cramer made his money in hedge funds. I do not recommend hedge funds. They're very little regulation, and they are very dangerous. They invest. So again, we would all pool our money together. Hey, I'm starting a hedge fund. You ever hear of Bernie Madoff? Does that ring a bell? Okay. That was sort of like that. But they can be very schemy and very risky. We'll all pool our money together. Let's all throw in $3,000. I have a really hot tip on these investments that I want to put in. And if it succeeds, we should all make about 8%, 10%. Not bad return. What's the bank giving you right now? Less than 1, right? And so people will do that. They're almost get rich quick schemes. I'm telling you something. See, God, our enemy doesn't want you to hear any of this. And he is correct. So he made a ton of money in a hedge fund, and now all of a sudden he became a very well-known analyst. And it's just because he got lucky and hit it. I just keep hitting it. I'm sorry.
No. You're going to talk into this one. I'm going to play with this one.
Ooh.
And we're going to get you set up.
Okay.
This is going to be awkward. Just push your arms up. There you go.
Hang on. Hang on, I wish I had a table to hide behind here. Anyway. So, but his reputation then became someone that can be trusted and who knows everything there is. If Jim Cramer says it, I'm doing it because he's very successful. That's not the way we want to go. You know, people will say on these shows, well, Warren Buffett? Does that name ring a bell? Well, Warren Buffett made his money by buying out failing companies, putting in good teams of management and turning the company around and selling the company for big money. He was very smart that way, but he's also well known for buying undervalued stocks. And I don't know that he's any smarter than anybody else in doing that. Well, I like the whole sound of this thing. Anyway, he's any better at it. He can overcome a lot of suffering because he's got a lot of money. He made a lot of money in companies that he bought and sold. In fact, he got the reputation of rolling into town near a failing company. And when they heard that he was in town, the people that owned the company would turn the company around. They got off their rear end and did something. Because just the fear of him coming to look at your company, he's going to buy us out, fire everybody, bring his guys in, turn it around, and then hold it for a while, and in 5 years turn around and sell it and make $40 million on the sale. That's just what he's known for. If Warren Buffett's not your stock advisor, who cares what Warren Buffett's doing? Who cares? He buys what he buys. He buys stocks I can't afford because he has that. Cash is relative. It's all relative. So here are the three investment types I want to talk about. Okay, how? I think I'm in the wrong. Yeah, let's talk about this. So here are the three types that I want to talk about today. There's a bunch of different types. I don't even have bonds up here, treasury notes. You know, you ever hear of double E savings bonds? Did your grandmother buy those for you? You know, they mature at I think it's like a 7-year, could even be longer than that. There are I bonds. There used to be double H savings bonds, and they were the bomb diggity. They paid like 8% guaranteed, matured in 7 years. They stopped doing that because they're backed by the federal government, and that's a good way to swamp yourself when you're giving a lot of people a lot of money when the interest rates go down. And that interest rate they gave you fluctuated up and down based on how we were doing. When the Fed raises interest rates, like they did just now, they just keep doing it over. It slows down inflation, slows down the housing market. The cost of demand, the demand for goods goes down because there's less money in your pocket. And it stops recession, stops inflation, then over a period of time, the interest rates will come back down. So if you just wait a little while, here in about 2 or 3 years, you'll get a loan for 3.25. So you heard it right here. You're going to say, David's a great investment advisor. He called that. No, it's just the way it goes. If you look at historical data, that's the way it goes. There is no timing the market. There's time in the market. Timing, time in. Okay? So get in, leave it alone, don't look at it, because if you're risk adverse, if you can't take much risk and you own stock and you're picking those stocks and you have control over those stocks, when the stock market goes down and you're risk adverse, you're going to pull that money out and you will lose money in that. But if you pick a family of funds, like I mentioned a while ago, mutual funds, we're going to land there here in a moment. I'm going to tell you the exact ones to pick, and you're going to make about 8 to 9% a year for the rest of your life. Good news. It's not as good as Jesus, but it's good news. Okay. So real estate, you can have physical real estate, and you can have stock in real estate. Physical real estate in our country grows at about 3.5% a year. Historically speaking. So when you own a property, you own your house, you're making 3.5% interest every year. You don't want a loan for 7% because now you're losing 3.5% interest every year, right? Because the interest rate, so you want to kind of buy low and know what you're going to get into over a period of time. So a lot of people's savings, their savings is when they get older, they sell their primary home that's now paid off, and they can make a pretty good return on their investment and then move somewhere else or rent a condo or something like that. That's some people's strategy. You can do it many different ways. We all are in different situations. Not two of us are the same financially in here. And you all have different needs and different modes, especially if we're older. Like, I can't right now, in my mid-60s, if I'm coming up on 70, I can't expect to start putting 2% of my income, which is zero, by the way, 2% of my income into a 401k and then say I'm going to retire at what, 80? So you have to kind of start this and get in it and stay in it for a little while. There are other investments, though, that we can do, dividend-paying stocks, that if you have a little bit of cash at 55, 60 years old, you're getting ready to retire, you can put them into dividend stocks and get the percentage of that dividend every quarter. Some of them pay monthly. For example, in stock, in real estate, so I said physical, in the stock, they're called REITs, real estate investment trusts. You can invest in them, and these guys, then the company looks for and holds. It could be physical real estate. It could be loans for real estate. It could be housing for the common man. It could be big corporate real estate that they hold these holdings in, and they're required by law to pay out has to be above, it's generally 92 to 95% of all their income that they get in those holdings, which can be very substantial. Some of them pay upwards, I've seen them 16 and 20% a year. Now, the higher the percentage, the risk follows it, right? Because there have been some REITs that have filed for bankruptcy, gone out of business. You ever play poker and the person sitting across from you has a tell? It's called a tell. You can tell when they're bluffing. They do something with their eyes. They smile, or they get really aggressive with their betting. There's tells in stocks, especially real estate stocks, that you can tell if they're not doing well with their dividends. For example, AT&T was paying a 6.5% dividend. It was really good. But every time they would pay a dividend out, their stock would go down 2%. And it kept doing that, stepping down. So really, you're getting a good 7% a year, but you're losing 7% in the worth of the stock a year. So how much are you gaining? Nothing, right? So you have to watch those types of things, and we'll get into all that individually if you want to talk about it. An IRA, both regular and Roth, a regular IRA, you put your this is the one they use for mainly for retirement, for a retirement income, like a pension. It works like a pension, 401, a regular 401k. It's pre-tax, so you'll put in 5% of your paycheck, and the company will match that 5%. Some of them match pretty good. My youngest son, who left this company, it was another company he worked for every dollar he put in, they put in $1.50. That's pretty good. That's real good. And they would match up to 50% of his payroll. I'm like, dude, max that out. Max it out and hang on to it. The reason that we don't, here's the reason that we don't. Not that you don't have discretionary income. I think everyone in here, if we sat down and talked, we can squeeze out a little discretionary income. The reason that we don't, though, is we don't look forward to, at 25 years old, I didn't think I was going to be 65. I just didn't. I didn't plan for that. I didn't see that coming. You think about that as a number, but it's like my bank account. I just don't see it as real. It's not real money. I don't play with the cash. So my aging wasn't a real thing for me, so I didn't contribute to that going forward. But you have to pay yourself. You have to think right now that I'm going to pay myself when I retire. Everybody wants to retire, right? And I hope you do. I hope you don't want to work forever, unless you love what you're doing. If you love what you're doing and you work forever, then that's fine. That's okay. I just didn't. I knew that at some point I was going to need to come out of there and get away from it, and did. So a Roth IRA, you can contribute up to $6,000 a year into a Roth IRA. It is post-tax, meaning that you're already paid tax on this money. You're going to put it in, so when you take it out at a later time, it's not taxed at all. So this is really one that you want to put some money in, have one. You don't have to have it huge, but I use my Roth IRA as an emergency fund. I can go grab that money at any time. I know I'm not going to get a big tax penalty on it, right? I don't have a big Roth IRA. I had a regular IRA for my employer. But it's just a tool. Mutual funds, and there are different classes of which you can spend the rest of your life learning on the classes of mutual funds. They started in the 1920s, and there was only like 10 of them up until 1950. They just didn't get the rolling. Now there's 600 and some of them with many different classes and what they invest in. I don't recommend getting bogged down in all that they do. There is a class of investment that I want to talk to you about, and we will here in a moment. So I'm just looking here at my notes. Markets are not, the only thing here is markets are not volatile, but they're very predictable over the long haul. Now, are they up or down right now? They're down. When the Fed raises interest rates, stocks will go down because people get scared and they sell out. And if the fear takes money out of the stock market sees that and produces other fear because why are so many people selling this? And it causes the market to just step down. But it'll all straighten out. Just hang on. Hang on. You're going to think I'm brilliant here in about a year. So how do I do this? This is how you do it. And if you're taking pictures of the slides, awesome. You're interested. If you're not, it's okay too. Determine asset allocation. What percent of my investments available is in cash? Meaning, how much do I have to invest? How much do I have available, really? How much can I find? And we can talk about getting out of debt. Remember last week I said put some in an envelope to pay your debt off, put some in your living expenses, put some in your giving expenses. And soon, in about 18 months, it usually takes for anybody because it looks so daunting right now, so you don't do anything. But you can get out of debt in about 18 months. Not your house. There is needed debt for our society, and then there's stupid debt. I'm talking about stupid debt. All right? Do I have to define stupid debt? I can't. I will in the comfort of your own home. So just do a Google search, determine my asset allocation. This will determine your ability to absorb risk. How much risk am I willing to take? And let's bring you through scenarios. If you have $10,000 in a stock and that stock drops 20%, what are you going to do? If you take the money out, the rest of your money out so you can save your 80, it'll give you a percentage of what your stock allocation should be. Okay? This is what it does. Number 2, pick a family of mutual funds. I recommend index mutual funds, and we'll talk about them in a minute. And I'll talk to you about the family of funds. Systematically, number 3, systematically contribute to that plan. Systematically. Remember where Paul said, set aside what you have chosen to set aside so that I don't have to do any collections. You choose what you're going to set aside and do that. Don't make us come here and beg you for money every week after week or month after month. Figure out what your income and stick to that. Get some discipline and stick to it. So it's what you do systematically that will cause you to succeed. So here are 3. I am affiliated with one. I get no kickbacks. I'm not affiliated. I use one of these companies. Vanguard, T. Rowe Price, and Fidelity. They're not the only ones. There's many more out there. Charles Schwab, Transamerica. Just go ahead and name off your favorite one. But these are really the top 3 when you start looking at these. And when you look at a mutual fund and you see the money that they charge you for a good index mutual fund, Vanguard is the lowest prices. Vanguard is the lowest fees that you'll pay on a really good index mutual fund around that I have found. You might have found more. So here is a good stock asset allocation table. It is not yours, doesn't have to be yours. It is a asset allocation table, and the funds are at the end of each one of these categories to tell you where to put your money. These are good index funds, like the top one, the Vanguard Total Stock Market Index Fund, averages. That can be down 8% this last year, and probably was. I didn't look at all the numbers right before coming in, but probably 8%. But over a 5-year period, you can expect 8 to 10% a year, every year that you're in this. I challenge you to find a better investment than that, than 8 to 10%. It's a good investment. So you want to be in international index funds as well. And then you want to put 20% or not whatever percent, when you figure out your risk allocation, you'll tell you what your percentages are. Like you want to be higher bonds. Bonds are super stable. They pay lower interest, but they take very little risk. They're pretty safe. And you'll figure out then what you want to put in that based on your allocation risk aversion table. Then if you put, I was going to run a scenario on this and say I did for Nikki, because Nikki worked last year, my granddaughter, and that little girl, 15 years old, put $10,000 in the bank. Wow. That little girl, yeah. I just became her financial manager overnight when I found that out. And I ran a table for her, and if she put that $10,000 in right now at 15 years old into this right here, this scenario, and she put $2,000 in for the next 20 years, $2,000 a year. Can we all scrape together $2,000? Can we? Yeah. She was going to have $420,000 when she retired. That's compounded interest is your friend. The banks know this. That's why they pay you 1% and then use your money to loan for mortgages at 7%. They're your friend. That's how banks make money. Banks make big money when interest rates go up. I'm not adverse to banks. Everybody's got to make a living, right? Coin flippers aren't any smarter than you. They're just banking on your laziness and your lack of education. If you go to I'm summarizing. If you want to go to a financial advisor, go to a fee only. You're going to pay them a certain fee to give you advice. Hey, I'm thinking about doing this. I just came into some money. Where do you think I should put this? If you need to do that. But if you want to do some educating stuff on your own, then I would go back to Daniel Solin's books and read those. I didn't read the one about your tax advisor may owe you money, because he's a tax lawyer, right? He's a investment firm. He's a lawyer for investment firms to represent and to go against them, depending on what they did to somebody, right? Did you know that if it's your broker's fault in a bad thing that let's say they took $40,000 of your dollars and put it in a hedge fund because they thought, I'm gonna smack this for this client right here. I'm gonna make them some money. And that hedge fund goes broke. They owe you that $40,000. They'll tell you they don't, but that's where a tax attorney comes or a investment attorney comes in. That you can get that money back. So that was about 30 minutes, 35 minutes. And we're going to do communion, but does anybody have any or want to talk about anything? And it can be what you know. Listen, I'm not a tax advisor. I am not an investment advisor. It's just things that I've learned that's worked for me. I talk to other people that have investments. We talk about these types of things. Not at every opportunity, just once in a while. It's not something that has a lot of my attention. But I know that no one's going to look after my future other than Jesus more than me, right? So I thought it was incumbent upon me, another area, to take care of my family by educating myself in this area. That's all. Education matters, and it's what you know is who you'll become. So any questions? I have a microphone. Don't call me. If you didn't ask it here, don't call me. I'll be going to 40 houses this week. What can I do here? What should I do?